This is your badness level. It's unusually high for someone your size. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 32 of Movies Are Awesome, the show all about car maintenance. My name is Nathan Puddle, and thank you for joining me this week. And this week, I wanted to talk about something a little bit different. I like to make a lot of top 5 lists and things like that, but I was thinking recently about what was the best single year of movies. Like, what year just released just so many great movies that it stands above the rest. And so I actually took the time and I did a lot of research into this. So I hope you can appreciate the work that I put in and the end result that I got. So I've got 2 runner-ups years, and I picked 5 movies to represent that year, and then I have the main year that I chose to win. And so I'll talk about my runner-ups first, and then we'll get into the main one here. So one of my years that, like, it was a very good year for movies, but not quite the best. And the first one is going to be 2010. And in 2010, we saw movies like Toy Story 3, Inception, The Social Network, Tangled, and The King's Speech. Now, if you have not seen any of those movies, as per usual, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you check them out. Toy Story 3 is my favorite of the Toy Story movies. Even after seeing number 4, for me it holds up as the best one. It probably goes Toy Story 3, Toy Story 1, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 4, if I had to think about it. But I've only seen Toy Story 4 once. I was hoping to get to go see it again before the summer was over. It just didn't end up happening. But Toy Story 3 is really excellent. It was actually nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, not just Best Animated Feature. It was nominated for the main prize. Not very many animated movies can claim that they've done that. Only 2 others, actually. The Beauty and the Beast from 1991, and then also Up from 2009. Or did it come out in 2008? I can't remember. But it was nominated for Best Picture. Inception, also nominated for Best Picture, is fantastic. It's a great movie. I have hardly anything bad to say about Inception. It's just a great movie. It's so well thought out. It's well shot. It's well acted. It's very well directed. It's just so well realized. I talked about it at length in my science fiction episode, so if you want to go back and listen to my episode on science fiction movies, can't remember what number it is, but if you scroll through the episodes, you'll find it there. The Social Network, also nominated for Best Picture, really put Jesse Eisenberg on the map as a talented performer. That kind of performance seems that's really all he can do, and that's fine if you find the thing that you're good at. But Tangled is also great. I love Tangled. It's one of my favorite Disney movies from, like, actually Disney Animation Studios, or Walt Disney Animation Studios, I guess I should say. And then obviously The King's Speech is the movie that won Best Picture at the Academy Awards that year. It's really excellent. I haven't seen it in a few years. I should revisit it because it is just so excellent. So 2010 was really strong for movies. There are some others that I didn't write down. For my runner-ups, I only wanted to include 5 movies for each one, and I don't really want to spend too much time on them, just kind of breeze over so I can get into, like, my big year for movies, the one that just, like, there are so many. It's crazy. My second runner-up is going to be 1993. And 1993 had some really good movies. We had Jurassic Park, which is in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. The Nightmare Before Christmas, Groundhog Day, Robin Hood, Men in Tights, and Schindler's List. Now, it's interesting that we have Jurassic Park and Schindler's List both in the same year because they're both directed by Steven Spielberg, and they're both phenomenal. Schindler's List won Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Jurassic Park won for visual effects. And that really just goes to show just Steven Spielberg in the early 90s was just on the top of his game. He was the best. I think he still is the best. He's the greatest director of all time, in my humble opinion. And to release two powerhouse movies like Jurassic Park and Schindler's List in the exact same year, and for those two movies to be so monumentally different from each other. One is a serious drama about World War II, and the other one is about cloning and making dinosaurs, and where's the line in creation on what scientists can and cannot do morally, right? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy that both of those movies came out in the same year. The Nightmare Before Christmas was an achievement as well. A lot of people believe that it's directed by Tim Burton. That is not the case. It is directed by Henry Selkirk. I think that's who it is. Or David Selkirk? I don't know. Henry, I think. But that movie is pretty good too, and there's that endless ongoing debate of, is it a Halloween movie? Is it a Christmas movie? What is it? I'm in the camp of it's a Christmas movie. So that's just me. I think I talked about that in my Halloween episode. If you haven't checked out my episode of Halloween movies, feel free to go check that out. Groundhog Day is fantastic. Probably my favorite Bill Murray movie, even though there are so many good options like Lost in Translation, Ghostbusters, Caddyshack, but I think that Groundhog Day is my favorite one. It's really just got everything. It's got humor, it's got heart, it's got all of these memorable lines from the movie. It's just really, really good. And then Robin Hood Men in Tights. It has been a very long time since I have seen that movie, but I remember it being great. I don't think I've really heard anyone say anything negative about Robin Hood Men in Tights. I'll probably have to revisit it now that I've brought it up and I'm talking about it, because it has just been so long I don't really remember what goes on in it, but I remember really, really liking it. So 2010 and 1993 are my runner-ups for the best year of movies, and why don't I just move in to my top one. In my opinion, this is the best year for movies ever to grace the screens for an entire year. From January to December of this year, we just got movie after movie after movie, and they're fantastic. I have 12 here to talk about. I couldn't keep it to just 5, and then I couldn't even keep it to just 10. There were just too many great ones, which is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I don't have them in any particular order. Just as they came up in Google, I wrote them down. So they're not like from 12 to 1 or 1 to 12 or anything like that. So why don't I just go ahead and say it? It's the year 2014. 2014 had some really fantastic movies. Actually, before I even get to my top 12, why don't I mention some of the movies that I haven't even seen that came out from that year? So movies like American Sniper, The Imitation Game, and Foxcatcher all came out that year. I hear nothing but great things about all three of them. I haven't had a chance to see them. The only negative thing I've heard is like the baby in American Sniper was like a big thing at the time. But I still haven't seen those movies, and I should get around to them, but the list of movies I need to watch, it's ever growing, and I don't always have time to catch up and keep up with this list. It's taken over my life here, but these top 12 movies I have seen, and so why don't I talk about them? So from 2014, first one I would talk about is Gone Girl. And oh my goodness, Gone Girl is what a roller coaster of a movie. Now, it's very dark and has some intense scenes in it, so I will warn you, this movie is not for everybody. My wife doesn't like this movie at all. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. It's like visually, it's so dynamic, and it's like color grading and the way it was shot. It's a beautiful looking movie. It's directed by David Fincher, and it just gives you this feeling, this sick feeling of like what is going on in this movie and how are things going to play out. And I don't want to give away what happens in this movie, but Gone Girl is absolutely nuts. It's crazy, and I love it. If you haven't seen it, just be very aware of what you're going into this movie. It's very dark and intense, And unless you're ready for it, it's going to like not sit well with you. It's just gonna ruin your day and probably the day after. It's definitely one of those movies you have to be in the right mindset for, but I highly recommend it. Ben Affleck gives a great performance, as does Rosamund Pike. They're both really good in it, and I recommend this movie wholeheartedly as long as you are aware of what you're about to watch. So, Gone Girl in 2014 is the first one. The next movie is The Grand Budapest Hotel. Now, this movie is directed by Wes Anderson. It is one of mine and my wife's favorite movies to watch together. It might be the movie we've seen the most together because we'll just throw it in and watch it regularly. We'll just say like, oh, let's watch Grand Budapest Hotel. This movie is so quirky and so unique that you just can't help but love it. There's a lot of reds and there's a lot of pinks, and I did actually talk about this movie last week in my musical scores because the music in this movie is just fantastic. And when you have the music paired with the dialogue, paired with the action, paired with the camera movements, it all just comes together so beautifully into this one story, this story within a story within a story, and it's just, oh my goodness, this is Wes Anderson's crowning achievement. It is my favorite of his movies that I have seen. I have not seen all of them. Those are also on my list of ones to see, but The Grand Budapest Hotel is a must-see movie. It's absolutely an achievement, and I think it won 4 Academy Awards, all of them deservedly so. So, Grand Budapest Hotel, 2014. Here we go. Let's just keep moving on. The next one is The Lego Movie, which is directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and this movie actually didn't even get nominated for Best Animated Feature, and I'm still upset about it because this movie is genius, and it's so clever and so funny and so witty, and the animation is completely on point that there's no reason. Like, this movie should have been a lock to win the Academy Award, and it wasn't even nominated for Best Animated Feature, and that's an absolute crime. This movie has just the right amount of heart and the right amount of humor, and this movie flies by. Like, it is so rigorously fast-paced. I don't know if I've ever seen a movie as fast-paced as the Lego Movie. I don't even think the Lego Movie 2, the second part, quite holds up to just how quick everything is. Like, I go back and I rewatch the Lego Movie, and I'm still catching new things, jokes that I've missed, because everything is just a mile a minute. I love the way this movie is animated, especially when you look at the ocean and like the waves of the Lego waves. It's fantastic. And then the big twist at the end, which obviously I don't want to give away in case anyone hasn't seen it, but it's just, oh my goodness, the Lego Movie. It's so good. It should have won. And it wasn't even nominated. And it's one of those times where I disagree with the Academy. What were they thinking? This movie, it deserved it. Speaking of the Academy, the next one that I wrote down actually won Best Picture that year, and that's Birdman. Birdman is shot to look like it's all in one camera shot. It wasn't. I think it was done in like 14 or something like that. But it looks like it's all one and is completely unbroken. Now, I like this movie a lot. It wasn't my pick to win Best Picture that year. I will talk about my pick to win for 2014 a little later on. But Birdman is a very good film. Probably the best performance by Michael Keaton. He did not win the Oscar for his performance, though. But I will be talking about who did a little bit later. It was a look at Michael Keaton's career, but like not on purpose. Like, this movie was directed by Alejandro Inarritu, who did he win for Best Director? I think he did. Yeah, I think he did. So Alejandro Inarritu directed Birdman, and then actually the next year he followed up with The Revenant, which is also very good. The Revenant did not win Best Picture that year, I don't think. No, it didn't. I can't remember what won, but it wasn't The Revenant. Anyway, Birdman is about this aged actor who is trying to rekindle his career, and he does that by making this stage play. And we see kind of the dress rehearsal, and then it goes into the opening night of the show, and it's just a really good movie and a really good look at the psyche of an actor and what goes through their heads and how do they think and how do they operate. And it's not even just from Michael Keaton's character's perspective, but also Edward Norton is really good in this movie, and like he's just captivating to watch. Like every time I watch Birdman, like those two guys are the best. Emma Stone is also in this movie. She's very good. And surprisingly, Zach Galifianakis. He's not in it very much, only pops up just here and there. But when he does, he's very good. Just another example of actors coming from comedy, showing that they do have some dramatic chops and they're able to do things other than just make people laugh. So Birdman is how many is that? That's 4 already. So let's move on to my 5th movie, and that is going to be Nightcrawler. Now, Nightcrawler is similar to Gone Girl in that sense that it's really, like, it makes you feel uncomfortable just because the main character of the story, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, is kind of a skeevy, like, there's something not right about him, and you're not 100% sure what it is. But so what he does is he works for a news company getting footage of like disasters or accidents, or just like getting footage that he can sell to the news company or to tabloids and things like that. And as the movie progresses, he starts doing things in order to help him get that footage. Like he starts like positioning himself and climbing up the ladder, and it's another one of those movies where I don't want to say too much about it, but it is really good. I've only seen it the one time, but it's impactful enough that it stuck with me, and I'm gonna think about it a lot, and I'm eventually gonna watch it again. But I think that it's one of those ones where I need to take a step back after a while. The very same with Gone Girl. You just need some time. I don't think I can watch those movies like back to back in close succession. It's a very heavy film. But even though it's really heavy, it's also really good. I'm pretty sure Jake Gyllenhaal was nominated for his performance. Also, he did not win. We'll get to that later, but I want to talk about superheroes next. So we had 3 really good superhero movies in 2014. First one that I'm going to talk about is probably the best of them, and that's Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Now, if you're not a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or if you haven't seen all the movies, The Winter Soldier is probably one of the best, like, from a storytelling perspective and just objectively well made. It's not my favorite of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it's definitely in that top 5. It's excellent. And what I think really sets The Winter Soldier apart from the other movies is a couple of different things. One of them being that it takes its story a little more seriously and it treats it as a political thriller. And it has stars like Robert Redford in it. And it really, I think getting a star like Robert Redford and really taking the story super seriously is what helps make this movie as strong as it is. I really appreciate the action sequences in this movie as well, especially when it comes to the hand-to-hand combat between Captain America and the Winter Soldier. It's really like tough and hard-hitting, and they don't have these extreme close-ups that they're cutting back and forth. Like, they're wide shots and you're able to see the whole fight, and you get to really experience how good at fighting these two characters are, and they're just on a completely like superhuman level. and it's fantastic to watch and to see the story unfold and the things that happen. It's just, oh my goodness, Captain America the Winter Soldier. It's one of those examples where the sequel is even better than the first movie. And I really like Captain America the First Avenger. I just rewatched it with my wife not that long ago because we're doing a Marvel rewatch right now, and I cannot wait to get back to the Winter Soldier because that movie is just, it's so good. It also does a lot of really good things with the character of Black Widow, played by Scarlett Johansson. So, like, it just has so much to offer, and it builds on the world, but it's still a contained story within itself. It's just very, very good. But that's not the only movie that the Marvel Cinematic Universe put out that year. We also were given the gift of Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously directed by James Gunn, and starring Chris Pratt and Bradley Cooper, Zoe Saldana, and Lee Pace is also in it. And Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't even know if I even need to talk about it. It's just so good. It's on its own. Everybody knows it. I don't think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is quite as good, but we're not talking about that because it came out in 2017, and we're talking about 2014. So Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014, it's another example of a weak Marvel villain, but the main characters are so strong, and their interactions are so interesting, and the script is so funny and clever that I can't help but really appreciate Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, that was all we got for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but we also got another excellent X-Men movie, and that's going to be X-Men Days of Future Past. Also came out in 2014, and it's just a fantastic movie. It is a little bit darker, a little more serious than some of the other X-Men films, but it's really good. Obviously, I have to talk about the scene in the kitchen with Quicksilver, and he's listening to Time in a Bottle and running around. I love that scene. I will sometimes just pull up that scene and watch it again without watching the whole movie because it's so good. We get a lot of good character interactions, especially between James McAvoy and Patrick Stewart. Between the two of them, like, talking through time to each other is really good. And it's one of those movies where you can't have a movie like that without all of the history of the other X-Men movies coming in and kind of laying the groundwork for what Days of Future Past is. So having that original X-Men trilogy and the Wolverine movies that aren't that good and X-Men First Class all leading up to Days of Future Past is what I think really helps make Days of Future Past an excellent film. And I really like it a lot. It's another one that I haven't revisited in a while, but when I think back on it, I'm not like, that wasn't that good. There's no point rewatching it. I don't feel that way at all because it's a great movie. It's one of many great movies that came out in 2014, and that's why I'm talking about it. So X-Men Days of Future Past is another one. I only have 4 left. So why don't I just keep on going? The next one is The Theory of Everything. Now, this is the movie where Eddie Redmayne won his Academy Award for performance. He beat out Michael Keaton, he beat out Jake Gyllenhaal, and the other 2 that were nominated, and oh my goodness, did he ever deserve it. His performance as Stephen Hawking is really, really good. I am currently blanking on the name of who plays Stephen Hawking's wife. Oh my goodness, what is her name? She's in Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Oh, why can't I remember? Okay, if it comes to me, I'll bring it up, because she was really good in the movie too. But this movie is just painful because, like, Stephen Hawking, his mind and his intellect, and, like, he's not losing that, but he's losing his physical self. And the fact that he knows that he's losing it, and it's like as he slowly deteriorates throughout the movie, your heart just goes out to him, and that's largely through the performance of Eddie Redmayne and his relationship with his wife, who's Felicity Jones. That's who it is. Oh my goodness. I'm so happy that I remembered, otherwise I would have kicked myself for forgetting. But like their chemistry together and their performances going back and forth with each other is really the heart and soul of this movie. Please do yourself the favor and check out The Theory of Everything if you have not seen it. It's so good. I will move on to my third last one, and that is going to be Chef. Now, way back when I first started the podcast, like 5 episodes in or something, I did an episode called Under the Radar movies, and Chef is on that list. So if you want to check out some other movies that are under the radar, feel free to go check out that episode and check those movies out. But Chef is directed and starring Jon Favreau, and it's just about this chef who gets a food truck with his son, and they travel around and they're just making food. And it's about like building a relationship between a father and son, and there's some really wonderful shots of food in this movie, and it's just so good. It was on Netflix. I don't know if it still is. It probably is, because Jon Favreau is doing that chef show on Netflix. Yeah, he does that still, I think. So I can't imagine why his movie Chef wouldn't be on Netflix still. But it's really good, and it's so heartwarming, and it's not like this big huge story like Captain America the Winter Soldier or Guardians of the Galaxy where it like spans the universe. It's just a dad and his son in a truck. And that's as simple as it needs to be. And it really just goes to show like how much Jon Favreau understands character and character relationships. And he really is a talented director. The Mandalorian is coming out on Disney Plus very soon. I cannot wait to watch it, especially because Jon Favreau is in charge, and he's had a lot of dealings with Star Wars before. Like, he knows the universe, he knows the characters, and movies like Chef are why I completely trust him in any project that he's going to do. Now, I did not like his version of The Lion King very much. I thought it was kind of a misstep for him, but like everyone's allowed one. There's some great directors out there who made some not good films, right? Like they exist. Steven Spielberg made Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Everyone's allowed to have a bad day at the office. Nobody's perfect, and Jon Favreau is no exception. And I absolutely love the movie Chef. Please check it out if you have the opportunity. I highly recommend this one. Only 2 movies left. I will talk about them, and then the podcast will be over. That's just how it kind of works. Number 2 is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I've talked about this movie before. I absolutely love it. It is so good. Another example of a sequel going above and beyond what the first movie did. The visual effects are fantastic. The story is tense. The music is really good. It's composed by Michael Giacchino. Oh my goodness. Caesar is such a layered and nuanced character. I love the kind of power that he holds and how it's demonstrated throughout the film. I love this trilogy of Planet of the Apes. I think it's wonderful. And this movie, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, is the crown jewel of that trilogy. It's the best one. I won't spend too much time on it, though. I'm going to move down to my last one. I only have one movie left from 2014, and it's the one that I feel should have won Best Picture over Birdman. It's fantastic. It's an amazing performance by J.K. Simmons. Miles Teller is really good, and that is Whiplash, directed by Damien Chazelle and released, obviously, in 2014. This is a movie about a student and his teacher, and the teacher's method of teaching his students is very intense. And so as they kind of start this rivalry back and forth, tensions really rise, and this movie is just really intense. And it's interesting because it's not something that you would think of when thinking about a movie about a student who wants to become the best jazz drummer out of anybody. Like, you wouldn't think that after watching the movie that you would be so emotionally drained. You wouldn't think that watching this movie that you would be on the edge of your seat about a kid who wants to be better at drumming than anybody else. The performance by J.K. Simmons is absolutely outstanding. The direction by Damien Chazelle is phenomenal. This is my favorite movie of 2014. I did save it for last on purpose. If you have not seen it, do yourself the favor. If any movie I mentioned today from 2014, for sure watch Whiplash. It is really, really good. I don't want to say what happens in the movie, just like with all of the movies I mentioned today, I don't want to give things away or plot points. The point of this episode is not to do in-depth reviews and analysis of these movies. It's just to say that these movies are fantastic and they all came out in the same year and you should watch them all. So that's all of like the top 12 movies from 2014. I'll run through them again really quickly just for you one more time. Gone Girl, The Grand Budapest Hotel, The Lego Movie, Birdman, Nightcrawler, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, X-Men Days of Future Past, The Theory of Everything, Chef, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and Whiplash. What a list of movies I just rattled off. All of those are fantastic. And there are ones that came out that I didn't even see that are also supposed to be great, like Foxcatcher, Imitation Game, and there was one more. What was it? American Sniper. That's the other one. So many great movies all in one year. I think that 2014 is the best year of movies, but I would love to know what year you think is the best for movies. If you have some suggestions and a list of movies from that year, please feel free to reach out and let me know. You can find me on Twitter at PottleNathan, and you can find me on Instagram at Pottle Productions. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. You can always feel free to go back and check out existing episodes if this is the first one you've listened to. Thanks again for listening to today's episode, and if you have nothing else to do, go watch more movies.